So the NFL is going to change the end of the field from end racism to choose love. And it just feels like, and I know they were able to use choose love throughout the season, but right now it's a branding choice that feels like a much larger message, kind of like this one. Do you remember the He Gets Us Jesus Super Bowl ad campaigns? The washing of the feet, the sort of backlash, criticism? He Gets Us Jesus Super Bowl ad campaign welcomes criticism over polarizing ads. Very reassuring. Rediscover the love story of Jesus. The first one was foot washing. The second one is Who is my neighbor? You tell me. Does it feel like Choose Love is branding itself in a way that's going to transition into something else? Choose love, choose life? I don't know. It feels like it's going in a different direction, even though it hasn't even come in this game yet. I don't know. Everything is untrustworthy at this point as far as the moves people are making these days.
Did you know that you can fight back just by being at home? The Super Bowl is this weekend, and we all know who's going to be there. So how about we just not watch the Super Bowl? It's pretty much the easiest thing we could do. I'm sure we all could use that time to do something more conducive.
So apparently the NFL is going to stop putting end racism in the back of the end zone, starting with the Super Bowl this weekend. It's been there since 2021, end racism at the back of each end zone. But apparently they don't feel the need to end racism anymore because Donald Trump is president, I guess. I don't know what I expected from a bunch of billionaire team owners, but this is just really disappointing. So, not going to be watching the Super Bowl. Who really cares about the Chiefs and the Eagles anyway?
Boy. So, we got to talk about NFL because it is Super Bowl weekend, and the NFL has made headlines due to the fact that they will no longer be showing their ridiculous display of virtue signaling by putting in racism in the end zone. Okay, if you guys weren't aware, the NFL put the phrase "in racism" in the end zones, and they've been doing that since George Floyd. Okay, when you had a bunch of NFL players on their knees, kneeling because the country's so racist, so terrible, disrespecting the national anthem. And now the culture has changed, right? The culture has shifted massively due to this victory by President Trump. And then you have the NFL coming out here and saying, you know what? We're going to get rid of end racism. We're going to replace it with, I believe it's choose love. However, I mean, the NFL is still woke, okay? They're still apparently doing the Black National Anthem, okay? Which is not a national anthem at all, okay? They're still doing that. They're still continuing with DEI. But regardless, this is still a massive cultural shift that is happening in this country. And I think the NFL deciding to get rid of the end racism thing is a part of that, even if they're still woke overall as an institution. Take a look.
The NFL is removing the words "end racism" from the end zone ahead of Super Bowl Sunday. It's the first time that those words will not be stenciled in at least one of the end zones since February of 2021. Despite some big changes in Washington recently, the commissioner of America's most popular sports league says his organization is committed to continuing diversity initiatives. Mike Silver is a national columnist at The Athletic. He has been reporting on this and joins us now for more on Sunday's big game. Mike, thank you so much for being with us. You have spoken to your sources who tell you that the NFL is going to be removing the words "end racism" from the end zones, and they're going to be stenciling in "choose love" instead. What's behind the change?
Well, Nancy, this was a very conscious decision by the league, and it can only be framed under the prism of what's going on politically. So many institutions, as you know, are either voluntarily or involuntarily moving away from DEI and other shows of anti-racism in this country. And so it coalesces with the expected attendance of the president, which is the first time a sitting president will attend a Super Bowl. They made that decision, told the people up high, this is what we're doing. And then a couple of days later, the commissioner went out and did stick up for DEI in his press conference.
Have you been able to get a sense of how that decision is sitting with the players?
It's interesting. Players are far less galvanized than they were when this practice started, and that was in the wake of the George Floyd sparked protests and the civil unrest in the summer of 2020. Back then, the constituency, and especially the players within the NFL, was very, very motivated to try to affect change and make these type of statements. It was a topic of discussion in every locker room. This last season, we saw some players dancing, doing the Trump dance in celebration. So things have definitely shifted within NFL locker rooms to some degree for now. I've not heard a lot of players expressing, any sort of displeasure with this, but I will be talking to them in the coming days, and I would imagine that some of them are.
Yeah, we'll see about that, right? I'm not sure how many players are going to be really upset about this. I mean, it's not like the NFL actually ended racism by putting in racism in the end zone, right? It turns out that did absolutely nothing at all to quote unquote end racism. In fact, Hitler got elected, right? Hitler got elected. Or the guy that Democrats claim is Hitler, right? So I'm just saying, I mean, it hasn't been very effective. And I think people have realized that, again, this is just a show, okay? And it's a virtue signal, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do anything. But that doesn't stop the cackling hands on the View from being upset over the fact that the NFL decided to abandon ending racism.
As I said, the Super Bowl is this Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And for the first time in history, a sitting president will be at the game. And it's already setting off controversies. Like after the NFL decided to edit their end racism slogan in the end zone for Sunday's game, now it's going to read choose love. The NFL says it has nothing to do with the new president attending. What do you think of this rewrite?
What's up with this act from Whoopi, right? Pretending as if she's losing her mind because she has to acknowledge the president of the United States. Again, this is a level of Trump derangement that's just not healthy, right? It's not healthy, okay? It's not healthy, Whoopi. I believe that these individuals should honestly get help, right? Seek help, lay on somebody's couch, and figure out how in the world can you get to a point where your whole life is not being driven by your derangement for one man, right? That seems to be what's happening here with the cackling hands on the View. And it's pretty pathetic, to be honest with you. For as hilarious as it is at times, it's very pathetic. You should not be this obsessed with one individual.
I think this is a little fishy and shady because what the NFL spokesperson said, that he said the decision was based on sensitivity to recent tragedies, including the terrorist attack in New Orleans, the deadly wildfires in LA, and the fatal air collision near DC. And I think that those are very noble things to honor and discuss, but I don't know how choose love, and it takes all of us, relates to that. So it seems to me like the end racism probably has a lot to do with the fact that the sitting president is there. And I don't know what everyone at this table thinks, but I don't think racism is over. And I think that it is a very noble thing to want to end racism so that we can become a more perfect union.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Sunny Holston does not want to end racism because she's one of the most racist people on the planet, period, okay? Having racism be alive is actually what these people want, which is why they spew racism, so that they can turn around and point the finger at people who disagree with them being racist towards other people, mainly whites, as racist, right? That is essentially what her whole grift is, right? And, it's just funny to me because in racism being in the end zone of the NFL, it did absolutely nothing to quote unquote end racism. In 2025, this conversation should not continue to happen, but it continues to happen because you have individuals that are invested financially into making sure that these conversations continue to happen. And that is why they're so concerned about quote unquote DEI going away, is because DEI is their lifeline to get paid an exorbitant amount of money that they otherwise would never be paid to sit around and boohoo, whine, and cry about white people, okay? That's all it is. So again, the race hustlers, the people that financially benefit from racism, they're the ones that are hell-bent on keeping it alive. Despite Sunny Holston's claims, the last thing that individuals like her want is for racism to end. What they want is a society where they can openly be racist, but white people can't, right? Because if you really wanted racism to end, then you would just stop talking about it, right? It's never going to actually end. Like, you're never going to actually end racism, okay? That's just a silly thing to suggest that you can end racism. Racism is a part of life. It's not that big of a deal in 2025. It's just not, okay? But if you want to minimize racism, if you want to minimize the impact that it has on society, then the best thing to do is to stop talking about it. The best thing to do is to get rid of these empty slogans that don't do anything but divide the American people, like, quote unquote, end racism. I'm just saying, that's the best way. But that's not what they want to do, right? They don't want to get rid of DEI, which again would be the best way to end racism, right? You want to end racism, then you probably should be against DEI. You should be against affirmative action. You should be against race-based quotas. But they're for all these things because they love racism when it benefits them.
I would know, Roger Goodell actually came out and said that he wasn't going to be ending DEI after a lot of major companies in America were saying that they were going to roll back some DEI. Roger Goodell, the chairman of the NFL, said that he I had to double check that. Said that he wouldn't be. So and because of that, I'm not sure that I would be able to assign motive that this is some kind of a change to appease Donald Trump because he's not in the actual action of the policy. I kind of saw it as maybe more all-encompassing of a number of tragedies and hardships that the country's dealing with. It's been a brutal month. Like, think of everything that's happened. I hate to say this. Like, I was thinking, oh, yes, it's in New Orleans. It was just a month ago there was this massive terrorist attack. So I'm going to not jump to the decision there that it may have been to try to appease him. I will say this. I generally don't like hashtag activism because I think that it could become a lazy way to not actually engage in the space. That said, I would question myself on that because I try to wear the hostage pin every day. This isn't freeing the hostages, but it's a little thing that means so much to the community it represents. So on that side, I do understand why people would like to see it there, but hopefully this represents all of those issues.
How long has end racism been in the end zone?
2021.
Since
4 years.
Okay,
Probably after George Floyd.
This speaks more to my lack of watching the actual game and focusing on eating the food, watching the commercials, and the halftime show. But I just learned about this end racism when the topic was brought to me. So I was like, does everyone know about it? I think if you're going to take something that important away, you don't put anything there. If you're saying we're going to take that away, because it creates a false equivalent and minimizes the importance of the original message.
Well, the original message wasn't important, right? Let's be real. It wasn't important. The NFL did that as a virtue signal. They didn't do it because they thought it would actually do anything. In fact, Sarah Hayes here has admitted that, it's basically invisible. I don't even notice it. Okay? So ultimately, this stuff, it doesn't have any impact. It's just silly nonsense. And, I think the NFL, they would be best served to actually lean more into trying to gain back their conservative fan base. Don't get me wrong. They're still a growing business. So, hey, I'm not in a position to tell Roger Goodell what to do, but I'm just saying they would make even more money, if they leaned into traditional American culture, to be honest with you.
Look, I think given what's going on in this country, anytime we can read the words and say the words end racism, we should, because right now, as we speak, Latino immigrants are being terrorized and everybody's being treated and seen as if we were criminals and rapists. DEI programs are being rolled back, not just in the federal government, but corporations are taking their lead from Donald Trump, and they are ending those programs. Clubs for LGBTQ, for Latinos, for African Americans in schools like West Point are being taken away. So let's, each of us, take the message of end racism and
AKA racism is being ended, right? These people are upset about racism being ended while complaining about the NFL getting rid of end racism in the end zone. Hilarious.
internalize it and channel it, and let us go out there and end racism and fight against racism and speak up against racism.
Now, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I have a funny feeling that the choose love that they've put in now is a message to all the folks who don't think they're loved, who don't think anybody's paying attention. I think it's because as crazy as the NFL is, sometimes they are very subtle in the stuff that they do. And I think...
Oh, that's a different take.
And I've been thinking about it during the course of the day because why that phrase? Why choose love? You know,
especially when the transgender community is under attack by the
administration. And especially since last year's Super Bowl ran all those horrific ads and all those lies about people, and people believed it.
Yeah.
So maybe this is their way,
the subtle messaging
of saying, listen, we might have made a mistake. And it's not them because they're not choosing what commercials you buy the time and you can put anything up there. But maybe that's what it is. I'm gonna
choose positivity.
Choose both. I'm gonna choose both.
Wow. Whoopi is incoherent, bro. I don't know why they continue to allow her to host this show. She sounded like Joe Biden, right? She sounded like Kamala Harris. She said a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know what she tried to say, to be honest with you. I just don't know. And I just see this a lot with Whoopi, and I'm actually getting kind of concerned. What's going on with Whoopi? Okay, outside of Trump arrangement, something else is going on upstairs that I think we should be talking about. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.